Hey, good evening, folks. How the heck are you? Were you afraid I wasn't going to be here? Sorry about that. The clocks in this house are all on different times, so I apologize unreservedly. Is that you? It's me, Mobius. Good to see you. Hello, hello, Jehovah, Lord Corion, Vincent Notabartolo. Yes, Mar. Yes. Yes, Mar. Yes. But anyway, I'm doing good, and I hope you guys are doing good too. Things are going just hunky dory for me. I had a good weekend. I hope you guys had a good weekend too. Um, let's see what's going on. Oh, I got up to some 3D printing this weekend. Well, some of it wasn't this weekend. I know you're all like, "Oh, here it goes about 3D printing," or you might be like, "Yay, 3D printing talk!" But I'm gonna talk about it anyway, not from a boring technical standpoint. I'm just gonna show off some of the cool stuff. Michael Connor says he had to unsub from Tankar's Tavern. That's okay. This is a no drama zone for the most part. So if you felt you had to do that, dude, I completely understand. I completely get it. Is it cold there, or are iguanas falling out of the trees? Uh, there have been warnings for falling iguanas. Now, look, you guys may laugh at that and go, Florida man. But the reality is, that, like, if you look at where the United States is compared to like Europe, okay, we are in the imperial province, and Europe, all of Europe, the entirety of Europe, including Italy, is Skyrim. Like when Europeans talk about, it got just insanely hot here, they mean it got in the mid 80s. Okay. So if the United States is the imperial province, I live in Black Marsh. And let me tell you what, we have a lot of lizards here. And at 40 degrees, they will just go into a little hibernating stuff and just fall right off of a tree. Doesn't hurt them. The cold just slows them down because they're cold-blooded creatures. So that's a thing that actually can happen down here in Florida. So, I mean, even Canada, even like the southern parts of Canada, aren't as far to the north as just regular parts of Europe. It's insane. Life is slowly turning into a giant D&D realm. Hey, as long as you don't go to downtown New York and try and jump off of the new World Trade Center building because you think you're going to go see the Great Hall, that's fine. But anyhow, no, I did some 3D printing this weekend, and I'm pretty proud of the results. The old girl, it's a year old. It still does a pretty good job. I'll show you guys what I did here. Let me bring up my control panel. I have a tick here. So let's slip over to desktop view. Hello. The first thing I will show off is this is a Pokemon that is to be printed, that is to be painted, that I did for my youngest daughter, and it came out pretty good. She's okay with it being a little rough. Otherwise, I would have sanded the heck out of it till it was just smooth as smooth could be on the surface. But there you go. And it got some good surface come on, focus. It got some good surface details on her face. And I printed it in high quality so it would pick out those details. So that's one. And I didn't do this as a whole piece. This was actually in chunks that I then glued together because cyanoacrylate just bonds filament no problem. By the way, the PLA stands for polylactic acid milk. Filament is organic. That doesn't mean you should eat it. It just means that it's not like ABS, which is not organic. Ultimately, though, aren't all compounds organic when you think about it? Anyway, the other item I printed is a little more salient, as we were talking about post-apocalypse. last week, of course. And one of my favorite post-apocalypse things is Twilight 2000. I do go on about Twilight 2000. We'll do a re-unboxing of Twilight 2000 and maybe a character build one of these days. One of these days soon, I think we should do that. But the equivalent of the +1 longsword or +1 dagger, if you're a magic user or a thief, is the RDFLT, or as it's called in, I'm sorry, it's not the RDFLT, it's the HSTVL, High Survivability Tracked Vehicle Light, which in the game they call the LAV 75. And I'll tell you about this a bit more after I show off the model. It is basically a light tank. Now, I specified 164 measurements to get this to true 25 millimeter for tabletop use, but I still think that's a little close to, I think this is a little close to 172 in terms of scale. So, Corey, you can eat anything once. Yes, you can. Light bulbs, edible. I ate one when I was a kid. I was 2 when I got a flashlight light bulb in my mouth and crunched it, apparently. But turret does rotate and the turret does come off. So there's the hull. I didn't bother cleaning up the bottom, so you can see some of the support junk is still in there. And it does look a little rough because I printed it on normal quality. But yeah, that is for tabletop use. I should have brought a miniature over here to show, just to give you guys a sense of scale. It doesn't look too wonky with a 25 millimeter Grenadier modern / sci-fi soldier standing next to it. But so this tank, this vehicle, back in the 1980s, the US Army was, well, it started in the 70s, really. There was a thought that the number of Soviet tanks that were going to be storming through the Fulda Gap in the event of a conventional World War III in Europe was such that the whatever heavy tank the US Army decided on, because it was still up in the air in the 1970s. They didn't know if they were going to build the XM801, which was this fiasco that came out of the MBT-70 project, which was this fiasco where the United States and Germany tried to get together to manufacture a tank. And like the project was held up for 18 months because they couldn't decide on using imperial or metric to build the thing with. And what they eventually went with was the ones that were made in the US would use imperial, and the ones that were made in Europe would use metric. Now, remember, this is supposed to be a common platform so that both armies, like, hey, my tank, the hull is too damaged to go on. Our tank is good to go, but it needs a new turret. We can just, off the American tank onto the German tank, or off the German tank onto the American tank. And we've decided that they're going to be two separate measurement systems when we get back over. So the Germans were eventually like 9 out of here. I do not do historical naval battles, Michael. Sorry. I want to know who destroyed Ruth Bader Ginsburg's soul gem. I don't know. I'm not, like I said, we're a stress-free zone here. But anyway, so yeah, so the M1 tank had not started to gel yet. So the Germans went their own way, built the Leopard 2. The US kind of took the MBT-70 project and slogged on for another few years with the XM801, which was a ridiculous disaster. And then they just said, okay, we're throwing all this in the garbage. And we're starting clean sheet, just a blank piece of draftsman paper. And a gentleman named Crichton Abrams came in and just, he slashed and burned. He moved without let or hindrance through project managers and gave the order to the Army. I want a Tiger II, but I want one that works. Because Crichton Abrams had been in the Army in Europe in the 1940s. He'd seen what a main battle tank could and should look like. But all this starts before that. The idea was that whatever we built, MBT-70, XM-801, or this new XM-1 project, it was going to be heavy, it was going to be hard to transport, and it was going to be expensive. And for running defense and for rapid counteroffenses, there wouldn't be enough of them to throw into the battle against the Soviets. So the thought then was, what if we had a light tank? First of all, the airborne units, the 82nd and 101st, need armor support. They need something that can be paradropped or lapsed low altitude parachute extraction out of the back of a C-130 or a C-141 for a paradrop. Boom, right onto the battlefield. Crew piles in and drives straight at the enemy. Which we've never had a paradrop tank ever. We've had they used to lapse Sheridan tanks, which is the pre-runner to the to this thing that I showed you guys, this thing right here. And the Sheridan had lots of problems. It depends on who you talk to whether it was a complete disaster or merely not a great vehicle. But so the Sheridan tank was due to be replaced. And so the Army went to a bunch of different design bureaus. And one of them, AAI, which I think eventually got bought by Raytheon, but they introduced this little low-slung turbo diesel powered mini tank. And it is an extremely high-tech vehicle. The sight, the big cylinder thing sticking up on the top there, right in front of my index finger, was the forerunner to the hunter-killer system that the Abrams tank uses, for example. That is, the gunner shooting over here, the commander looks and he sees a target over here and pushes a button, and as soon as the gunner is done engaging over here, he sees in his monitor, in his display, there's a new target over here, and he pushes another button and the turret slews to it. And then the commander goes back to looking for other targets because he knows the gunner is doing his thing. He doesn't have to yell target 11 o'clock tank and all that. But like a lot of things, and a lot of the HS TV-L had were really, really good things, but the damn thing was more expensive than a fighter jet and almost as complicated. And it had a lot of cool things going for it. The gun was automatic. It was a 76 millimeter machine gun. Autocannons in Battletech, that was an honest to God autocannon. I mean, people talk about how badass the A-10's 30 millimeter gun is. A gun that shoots bullets that are that big and fires 3 of them in a burst. And it can just feed up out of the main magazine with it without stopping. All 3 stations could drive and fight. If the commander and gunner got injured or weren't even in the tank, the driver could drive, sight, and fight. Or if the driver and the commander were injured, the gunner could drive, fight, and sight. You get the idea. So they were still kicking around the idea in the early 1980s before they canceled it. They just said, look, we'll do some product improvements to the Sheridan, and then we'll get on to a light tank probably by the mid 1980s. They didn't either. The Sheridan was still in service during the Operation Desert Storm and retired shortly thereafter. But because it was still in consideration, it got featured in a lot of things like Popular Mechanics, um, a lot of informational TV shows and that sort of thing talked about this new high-tech tank that the Army was looking at. The designers of Twilight 2000 saw the RDF-LT, which, damn it, I did it again, the HSTVL, and said, hey, that's going to be the next badass thing in armored fighting vehicles. Let's put it in the game. So they got their specs out of publicly available sources, and it made it into the game, because the assumption was by the year 2000, the HSTVL would be just a regular Army vehicle, like the Abrams, like a Humvee, like the Hemet transport truck. But that was not the case. It was canceled when the guys were creating the game, but they had a bunch of art, they had stats for it. They said, hey, this is an alternate future game anyway. Put it in there. When you are creating a fire team in Twilight 2000, and a fire team in this context means a bunch of characters, you can roll on a table to start to see which vehicle you grabbed from the depot when the NATO rear areas were being overrun with the Russians. And you roll a number of D6 not equal to the number of people in your party, but it's like, so if you've got 4 people in the party, you roll 3d6, or 2 6-sided dice and 1 6-sided dice, or 3 6-sided dice separately. And depending on your score, you can get a Humvee, a 2.5-ton truck, a 3/4-ton truck, some kind of armored personnel carrier like a Bradley or an M113, or the Hemet, the tank transport semi truck, or some kind of tank, including the LAV 75. So, you roll your dice and look at that. It's the LAV 75. So they are, for NATO forces, for US NATO forces, pretty easy to get as a starting vehicle if your group wants an armored vehicle. Now, if you're like, look, there's a lot of maintenance, it's a lot of fuel, it's a big target, it requires ammo to keep that big gun fed. Yeah, it protects us from small arms fire or even heavier weapons fire. We're not, we don't do that here. You don't have to, but it's just an iconic vehicle of the game. And so for the longest time, there have been no 3D files out there on the internet available for it. Some people had tried Gamely, like, you can get a 3D file, like if you want a G.I. Joe Mauler tank, which, yes, the boys at Hasbro, when they created the Mauler tank for G.I. Joe, created they basically took the HSTVL, HSTVL, and they simplified some of the shapes, probably for manufacturing purposes. Like the turret's just square. It's like a 4-sided pyramid. And said, boom, hey, there's our tank. So of course, someone remade the Mauler tank and put it on the internet, but it's not quite that. So this weekend I was just casting around and I was like, because I had always looked for, under various names, LAV 75, Twilight 2000 tank. Lo and behold, back in March, an artist, a 3D artist, made a model and put it on Cults 3D. I bought it. It was only $5. I can crank out as many as I want. I could go in and I could make bashed up ones for wrecks and whatnot. So someday I hope to have a tabletop Twilight 2000 game again, and one of the rare vehicles. And you might ask, well, why not just buy a model kit, Bill? There's model kits of everything. There's not model kits of that. No model kits of that were ever made, ever. So you're kind of out of luck. And yeah, I could have kit bashed it out of balsa and an M113 hull and some other bits and pieces, but this gave me a chance to really have, like I said, the +1 long sword, the +1 dagger of Twilight 2000 for the tabletop. I might reprint it, like make this one just a shelf piece after I get it painted up. I might reprint it in 160 because I think 164 is just a shade too small for 28 millimeter. I think the Grenadier 28 millimeter NATO minis that I've got are just that camera's not on, are just a little too big. They look a little too wonky next to it, and you can definitely tell here under my index finger that's the commander's main hatch there. You can tell it would be just they're just a little giant next to it. So I might reprint it in 160 or 161 or something like that. I use a scale calculator based on the length of the vehicle's hull. See, we have that data, the length of the hull. Once you know the length or the width or the height of a vehicle, you can throw that into a scale calculator and say, how long would that be in millimeters at whatever scale I tell you? And it'll come back and it'll say, okay, it's this long in 172. I can then put the model, regardless of what size it is, in the 3D preparation software and say, scale it to this percentage or make it this many millimeters long and scale everything else appropriately. And it'll create a model of whatever size. And then you save that to removable media, put the media in the printer and say print. And this on medium detail, this took about 9 hours to print, which is why I'm a little reluctant to reprint it. So I had a lot of fun reprinting. Still waiting on the resin printer. I don't mean that in a negative way, like, oh, where is it? It'll get here when it gets here. And when I start doing minis, like actual, like tabletop minis, not larger pieces like the Pokemon and the tank and everything, once I get those done, it'll once I get the 3D printer, I can start the resin 3D printer. I can start doing like character minis and monsters and things like that. Which PLA printers are okay for that. Some people, I've seen on YouTube tutorials. I have downloaded config files. I have messed up my configuration settings to the point that I've had to uninstall my 3D software and then reinstall it to get the configurations back to where it's outputting decently again. There are people who insist that modern 3D printers, if you use a given set of configuration files, will give you tabletop quality 28 millimeter minis. Bullshit. At least it's bullshit in the case of my Anycubic over here, okay? I mean, maybe I don't have the right resolution nozzle on it. Maybe I just suck at inputting the values. Maybe it's just not that good of a printer. But it's done these, and I can't complain about any of the stuff it's made for me. Like, none of the stuff that I printed beginning to end that didn't have like a sudden error in it or something, have I gone back and said, this sucks and was a waste of time, and just thrown it away. I've been satisfied with every completed project it's output for me. Um, but I cannot get minis that tall with one exception, and it's only because they're supposed. I just needed quickly put together minis. I printed out some Frankenstein minis that I think I showed to you guys when I did it, but I wanted all the flesh columns for White Plume Mountain. I didn't want to have here's okay, fighter, elf, couple of halflings, an American Indian, a police chief, and a gummy bear. Okay, there's the flesh. No. So I got these Frankenstein minis and I printed them out for the purpose of identical flesh columns standing in a room that were going to accompany the party along through the rest of the dungeon. They look fine. So I have no complaints at all about that. None whatsoever. What I do have complaints about is this, and I'm going to have to move it. I figured out today how to safely mount my Grenadier AD&D. I can eat the gummy bear. That's true. My Grenadier AD&D gold series miniature boxes on the wall. Stuck to the wall with 3M strips. I have flat rectangular, they're like 1/3 of an inch high, 2-inch wide rare earth magnets. The box is lightweight cardboard. So I put the back of the box against the wall, took a couple of metal washers, stuck them through the magnets, then put the front on it. And it's hanging there. And my big fat melon is in the way of it. So I'm going to move it over and up a little bit. I was afraid of that. Or maybe I can just turn my chair or something. I don't know. But I'm gonna now that I know that I am in the way of it, I will probably because I don't know if I turn more, I think I'm gonna block it more. Because I'm a little askew here. I'm a little askew. Let me if I turn. Yeah, it's not much better. So yeah, I'll move that and you guys will be able to see that. And I'll put the other boxes up in the same way. Dungeon Minister says, you might as well be doing magic for all I'm understanding. You're a modern wizard. I'm a hairy wizard. But anyhow, although Dungeon Minister, you have a much prouder beard than I do, sir. But yeah, I'm gonna get those assembled. And let me see. Oh, I forgot to have this going. Switch this on. Yes. So if there's anyone new and you want to support on Patreon, you can support the show on Patreon right down there. I felt like something was out of sorts the whole entire stream. Anglican clergy are famous for facial hair. Yes. Although no offense meant, but you got to admit, Eastern Orthodox, those guys have got some serious ZZ Top vibes going on. Am I right? Am I right? And I say that with much love because one of my friends is Eastern Orthodox. He's actually works for his church. Calvinoni, you're here late. Even the women. So you're dwarves, is that it? Hey, I'm not in the bearded dwarf women's school. I'm sorry. I think they have awesome sideburns, but not the full, There is this great photo. It's a meme, and it's almost as old as modern internet memes itself. It is Peter Jackson walking between Ian McKellen and Christopher Lee. They're in costume. He's in a polo shirt, shorts, and sandals, walking along. And I guess he's doing a script reading for them or something. And the caption on the photo is a an Anglican priest, a Catholic priest, and a Baptist minister are having lunch together or something like that. John David, hello. How are you? It's good to see you, John David. So John David brings up a thing that happened. My poor Zeus. So my back 40 is full of brambles and stuff like that. I was playing fetch with him, and he must have dove straight headlong into a bush. And just over the course of a week, he scratched his cornea. That has to have been the case. Because I don't think it was down at the park, because that's just open grass. But regardless of where it happened, the poor boy ended up with a scratched eyeball and started it was just it was tearing up all the time, and I didn't understand it. It was tearing up because it was hurt. And because it was tearing up and gooping up, he was constantly rubbing at it, and eventually he caused like all the skin around his eye to get inflamed. And then let's just throw conjunctivitis on top of that in both eyes. So for about 10 days, I had to take the guy. Well, I didn't have to take him to the vet for 10. So I had to take the guy to the vet. And I was like, okay, yeah, he's got a little eye infection going on. They'll put him on a cone, maybe, a couple of days of let his eyes heal up and everything's fine. And they're like, yeah, no, here's what's going on. So every 8 hours, you've got to put drops in his eyes. Anybody ever try to put drops in the eyes of a willful 83-pound Labrador retriever, especially when his eyes are already hurting? So yeah, night in and night out. And it's every 10 minutes, every 3 hours. So one set of drops in both eyes, then a set of drops twice, but different stuff in the one eye. So I had to do that for hours, just for days upon days. I was camped out on the couch because I was having to get up at like 6 a.m. to do the drops. So that ended yesterday. That ended Sunday. He finally got the cone off. And again, I don't care what size dog you have. You put a cone on a dog, they become 3.5 feet wider. And they thump and clonk and bonk, and they try to get the cone off. But thank you very much for asking, John David. That's a tale of love. You're both lucky to have each other. I love Zeus very much. He is a sweet, sweet boy. He is, oh gosh, I guess he must be 11 now. 10 or 11 years old. And he is a sweetie. He is a sweet, sweet dog. Doesn't have an aggressive bone in his body. So, Jack Photon says, cats are monsters too. Not an 80-pound dog, but hey, they do get big. Yes. My wife, my daughter, my wife and both of my daughters have cats. So we're a petful family. Yes, we are. And they all have their vet get-togethers come about the same time. So it's like, take one cat, come home. Take another cat, come home. Take another cat, come home. And it's like they see me for a week. And then I gotta take the dog. Our 15-year-old cat just had a tooth pulled, penicillin for a week. Oh, poor kitty. But that's what's going on. You know what? Let's talk about role playing stuff for just a minute because Zeus is going to be okay. And again, John David, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate that. Thank you anybody else for asking about the pets. Now I have to worry about my wife. So that's another story, and I don't really want to be Captain Bring Down and go into that. Um, anyway, let's continue on. Joshua, my kitty cat Bootsy was a Maine Coon. The I had him from college through so I had him from like 1990 ish, 1991, 92 until 2005. So Bootsy had a good long life. But man, he was awesome. And he was the Mac Daddy if women came over to the house, he was, oh yeah. Oh, let me just rub all. Ooh, yeah. he loved the girls. He was my sweetheart. I've been lucky enough. I've had wonderful pets. But anyway, something RPG interesting came up, and I wanted to discuss this. Now, I said at the beginning of this live stream, this was a no drama zone, and it's a no drama zone. I mean, unless I don't know, unless it's a drama that might harm the entirety of the hobby. And I want to. So, with that said, I want to be conscientious about this. I want to be, uh, I want to be as sensitive. Is that the right word to use? I don't know if that's the right word to use. It's like I swallowed a shoe. A lot of you guys know, and Justin Lanassa has been in the chats before and talking about the situation with him, his iteration of TSR3. I call it that just for the sake of the discussion, for the sake of clarity. You guys know why. I'm not throwing shade. I'm not casting aspersions. But that's his whole situation. I have stayed back away from it. I'm just waiting to see what happens. I'm waiting to see what evolves. And I think we all are. But yes, inclusive. But there's this one thing, and it does bother me. Now, this is just my outside observation, but one of the things that Justin Lanassa has said that current TSR, wants to legally do is make Wizards of the Coast take the boilerplate off of the old D&D website. And if you're not familiar with what that is, if you're not familiar with that boilerplate, I want to read this to you guys because I feel like I feel like this is salient. It's relevant. So if you go over to the Dungeon Masters Guild, let me see. Now, it's not on the Dungeon Masters Guild. Do they have it? Maybe it's on. Okay, you know what? I could be wrong. Maybe it's on Drive Through RPG. Let's have a gander over there. Guys, I'm not trying to start anything. I am not. But my concern is this. Um, let me see. So don't, don't at me. My concern is this. The request, the demand by them to remove the boilerplate that says, this version of D&D is from a time when we didn't have current year sensibilities, and we don't support the a lot of the attitudes and ethos in here. It came from something, and I was not happy about this, but it came from uh someone a year or two ago said, "Hey, I find Oriental Adventures offensive. There's a bunch of Asian stereotypes in it." And I've said my piece about that. Gary loved Asian themed things, Japanese themed things. It is on DM's Guild. Go to the 1E page. Okay, thank you. I will go there because I couldn't find it. So let's go over there because I want to. First edition. Okay, so here it is. And I'm reading this. We, Wizards, recognize that some of the legacy content available on this website does not reflect the values of the Dungeons & Dragons franchise today. Some older content may reflect ethnic, racial, and gender prejudice that were common in American society at that time. These depictions were wrong then and are wrong today. This content is presented. It was originally created because to do so otherwise would be the same as claiming these prejudices never existed. Dungeons & Dragons teaches that diversity is strength, and we strive to make our D&D products as welcoming and inclusive as possible. This part of our work will never end. Now, I've read it time and time and time and time again. I'll read it again if anybody wants to hear it. There's a strong statement about diversity and inclusion right in first edition AD&D. It's right in there, guys. With that said, regardless of what TSR3 thinks, of what I think, of what any of you old school fans think, no matter how we might like it or dislike it, this belongs to Wizards of the Coast. It belongs to them. It's their property. This is what they want to say. I wish that someone at Wizards of the Coast would look at what's in the introduction of the player's handbook and rethink this, not to change their minds about being diverse. I just wish that they would realize that not all old schoolers are knuckle dragging Neanderthals. My concern, my worry is that if you push these guys too hard, Wizards of the Coast, they might just say, look, it's not worth the trouble. If you guys have a problem with one paragraph on the Dungeon Masters Guild, we're just gonna jettison this stuff because you guys aren't worth our time. That's my concern. I can send people to individual product pages. Somebody comes to me and says, yeah, I'd love to play 1E, but I want the books. And I looked on eBay And the books are all hideously expensive. A player's handbook is $100. A Dungeon Master's Guide is $225. A monster manual is $125. No, just go here. Buy soft cover versions for $21.99. You know, get them print on demand, or get the PDFs and take them somewhere. You know, take them down to Kinko's and get yourself a comb bound version. My concern is that pushing these guys will make these guys, because remember, Hasbro's a corporation, and this is Hasbro. And don't say, well, Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro are really different. The CEO of Hasbro is the former CEO of Wizards of the Coast. All right. They just got a new CEO at Hasbro. The Hasbro CEO stepped down and was with the Wizards of the Coast guy who moved up into a spot. My worry is that if you push them on, hey, get that off, they're going to say, I'll go you one better. We'll just get rid of all of it. How about that? And once they cross that red line, there is no coming back. And you can say, well, Bill, then yo ho ho. Look, I know people who want to play classic D&D who have told me, yeah, I could get the PDFs anywhere for free, but that's pretty sketchy. I don't want to do that. I'll just buy it. And they've spent $9 or they spent $20, $25 to get the print on demand from Wizards of the Coast. And you know what? As a creator, as someone who has product out there, you know, I mean, right there, and Temple of the Sun, or Lost Crypt and Temple of the Sun, and Elemental Moon that I did with Lance Havermehl, and the sequel, which is coming. You know, that's old school stuff, and I don't like seeing it out there. I know there's PDFs of it out there. Just for shits and giggles, before the Trove went down, I went and looked up some of my stuff. It's on there. I didn't put it up there. Hey, Ricky Maru, good to see you, sir. So that's just kind of where I'm at, guys. That's what I'm. That's what I'm feeling, guys. Okay. It's a paragraph. What we should be pushing Wizards of the Coast to do is to read the player's handbook. And any of you guys out there, let me, I hope to God I don't lose any subs or any patrons for this, but let me, if you're out there and you feel like, diversity is a dirty word, and oh, my D&D never needed that, and yada yada yada. I'm gonna do this. I've done this a lot, but I'm gonna remind you of something from the typewriter of Mike Carr. I'm gonna read this to you again, because there might be some of you out there who need this reminder. And I think maybe Wizards of the Coast needs this reminder too. Players, and more players. That's what comprises the D&D phenomena. And phenomenal it is what it is, as the audience for this, the granddaddy of all role-playing games, continues to expand. D&D players happily come in all shapes and sizes, and even a fair number of women are counted among those who regularly play the game, making Dungeons & Dragons somewhat special in this regard. This widespread appeal cuts across many boundaries of interest and background, which means that D&D players are marked by a wide range of diversity. In fact, one could easily use the analogy that there are as many types of D&D players as there are D&D monsters, After that, draw your own conclusions. There are unquestionably fast players, slow players, clever players, foolish players, cautious players, reckless players, generous players, greedy players, friendly players, and obnoxious players. As diverse as this melange of enthusiasts is, they all seem to share one commonality: a real love for Dungeons and Dragons and a devotion that few other games can claim. There we go. That's it. And you know what, Lord Corion, if I could give gold stars over the internet, I'm going to put that right there. I'm going to put that up there, and that's going to stay up there for the rest of this stream. Let them keep the boilerplate. It makes them feel better, and I don't read it out to my players. Let them keep the boilerplate. Guys, it takes one person to issue a command in a Linux server. And our end of the hobby, our purchasable end of the hobby, goes away forever. Now, you might say, well, Osric and Swords and Wizardry, come on. I love Osric. I love Swords and Wizardry. Hell, my name is in the credits for Osric. I've said that before. You dig down in there, I did spiders, sphinxes, and snakes. I think it did snakes in the monster book part section of Osric. Those are my entries. But you know, and I know, that Dungeons and Dragons is the cachet by which we get new people looking. You go to a comic store on a free RPG day, or just they're having an RPG event day, and say, I'm playing Osric. Never heard of it. I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons. Cool, I like playing Dungeons and Dragons. I'll play Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, this is classic D&D. Did you ever watch Stranger Things or Freaks and Geeks? Or yeah? Cool, all right. You know, you got it. I've never had someone turn away from classic D&D and say, I hated that. Nobody's ever walked away from my table saying I hated that. So it helps. It serves greatly to still have what we have. People lose their patience. Okay. Hey-o, Imperial Ramblings. Good to see you, sir. I think WotC already addressed the issue presented to them on behalf of all creators. They put the same thing on 3E and 4E in a couple of years. I guess it goes on 5E. It may. I mean, it may. Can you imagine being someone who contributed to 5th edition literally up to the release of 6? 6 come out, and then that gets stuck on 5E. And you're just like, so you might not like it, and I might not like it, and things may change, but the reality is, if you lean on them and you start making demands, I demand that you change this. It may just, they might just go, okay. I mean, think of it this way. We're all at a big banquet table. You got the 4E family, you got the 5E cousins, you got Grandpa OD&D, Great Uncle AD&D, his wife Great Aunt 2E, brother 3rd edition with his twin brother 3.5 edition. That hyperactive kid that everybody wishes would just sit down for a minute, 4th edition. All right. And on this massive plate with a big hunk of steak that is the player's handbook, the monster manual, and the dungeon master's guide, and a big, huge heap of gravy covered mashed potatoes that is the classic modules. there's a little serving spoon, a little tiny serving spoon of salmon pate, just right there. And you stand up, you're with the 1E family or the OD&D family or with any of them, and you stand up and you say, "That sucks. I don't want that." Knowing that at any minute, the chef might look you in the eye and say, "No problem." And they come and they take your plate and they scrape it in the trash and they tell you to go pound sand. And then you don't get anything to eat. But you say, there's a perfectly good steakhouse just up the road. Is that the family dinner, though? Ask yourself that. Is that the family dinner? I say, don't sweat this. It's small potatoes. I mean, this paragraph on the Dungeon Masters Guild, this paragraph, we recognize some of the legacy content available does not reflect the values of Dungeons and Dragons today. And I know this because I was there. I was there in the 1980s. This one paragraph is less harmful than what Pat Pulling did without an internet. She had a typewriter and a telephone and one policeman who believed her and a discredited psychologist. That's all she had. And she pulled the entire focus of our hobby to her and held it there for years and damaged our hobby almost irreparably. She got 60 minutes to go to Lake Geneva and do a hatchet job on Gary. She's why there's no demons and devils in second edition. She's why second edition, as published, don't at me about you ran your games differently, okay? I'm talking about the books, and you know what I mean. She's why second edition was so ballardized. So that was one woman with a typewriter, a telephone, and too much time on her hands, and her unending grief and her search for answers over the death of her son. Jack, are you saying what I said sounded more like a court-ordered apology for Hustler Mag if they had lost some suit or the other? Are you saying what's on what was? I just want some clarity there. Ah, the boilerplate. Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure. I didn't know if I needed to fix my shield and my quick, Ricky, what's a good pole arm for holding off a charge? Tell me in the comments. Fix my shield and my pole arm. But I mean, yeah, even if it is a hollow attempt, look, I just don't want Wizards of the Coast to feel like they're painted in a corner and exercise a pike. Okay, a pike. Fix my shield and my pike. I don't want them to feel like, um I'm sorry, what was that, Ricky? That sounds faintly like like the noise that a permanently failed saving throw makes. I'm just kidding you. Um, but, I'm just not sure what poking the bear will serve when the bear can shut down the hobby. And you might say, "The hobby won't go away, Bill." Guys, I've been as clear as glass. My hobby is classic Dungeons& and Dragons. People say, "Oh, Bill, you're a gamer." Kinda. I'm an AD&D'er. I'm not even a classic D&D'er like, "Oh, I'll play basic, and I'll play original D&D, and I'll play Red Box Mentor, and I'll play Rules Compendium, and I'll play 2." No, 1st edition AD&D, that is my jam. Now the others, sure, it's like, "Hey, let's get some pizza. My favorite pizza place is this." "Yeah, but my favorite pizza place is this." "All right then." You know? And I'm sure it's still pretty good pizza. So, again, it's easier for them and less noisy for them to simply go, "This is such a pain in the ass." There. We just shut off a revenue of a few $100 a month, or even a few $1,000 a month in classic books. Big deal. We'll sell more Sean K. Reynolds cosplay as Mordenkainen Funko Pops than we will 1st edition AD&D books. We're over it now. And what then? I don't want that to happen. You don't want that. Trust me, you don't want that to happen. Awick says the statement only bothered me when it appeared to be about specific editions. I mean, they've put it on all the editions now. And I think whoever said it, I think is absolutely right. It's gonna go on 5th edition. There might just be a script. It's like, if directory equals X, then add blah. And as soon as 5th edition gets moved into that directory, it'll go on that. And as soon as 6th edition gets moved in, it'll go on that as they drive ever forward onto their whatever it is they do. I should put that statement on a t-shirt and sell it. And I don't disagree with what you're saying, Jack. The PDFs will float around for years and new scans will be made. But it goes back to what I was saying. There's a lot of people that getting, getting them legitimately, like you say, yeah, you can just, you can Google it and you can find it on, some sketchy website and so on. That's like immediately they back off that. They're like, I don't want to, I don't want to do that. That's not me, and depending on the person, it might throw a little stain on you. They might be like, well, this, I think I'm just creating a hypothetical and it might be a straw man. I firmly acknowledge that what I'm about to say might be a straw man, but they might go, you know, well, Bill said I could just download this anywhere. Maybe if he's into just stealing stuff on the internet, maybe that's not what I want to, I don't want to really kind of be part of that, you know. Now, Fox's Star Trek, that is a different I mean, it's a similar, but it's a different situation because FASA doesn't exist anymore. I don't know who has a Star Trek license, but I mean, you are talking about fish versus apples. They're both food, and that's where the similarities end when it comes to whatever new Star Trek versus FASA's Star Trek. I get people's desperation there, but we've still got our apples, guys. So, but I mean, that's just me. Do you guys honestly, everybody, anybody who's commented, if you think I'm wrong, if you think that this is just like if I'm wrong, call me out. You can on the Discord if you're a member of our Discord. Um, yeah, I'm gonna stick that in the conversation and pin it so you can hit us up on the Discord. Let me see here. Bear with me a half a hot minute. Where is it? Yeah, right there is the Discord link. And you can you can check that out if you look at you can join the Discord and you can come yell at me over there if you think YouTube comments isn't yelly enough, and just welcome into the channel. So yeah, I mean that's Samalama's already in the Discord here to yell at Bill. I probably deserve it. So I mean that's kind of the breadth and depth of it. Join us for polearm memes, absolutely. Cal says, I don't care what WotC does. I'm not a customer of theirs. That's that's fine. How many years till 1E becomes public domain? So I mean that depends. Doesn't that kind of depend? Really? I mean, because all the books say by Gary Gygax, and currently with copyright, what is it, 70 years after the death? We've got a long way to go. Did I just authorize caps lock? Hey, it's not caps lock, it's a turbo button for the internet, baby. So, author's life plus 50 years, author plus 70. Yeah, I think it is authors plus 70. So if we just assume that it's Gary Gygax, uh, yeah, I will be long dead before 1E becomes public domain. But then it's a game system, and the game system is owned by a company that will never go away. And Disney, they keep pushing copyright. They keep pushing it up more and more. What happens if we cast Resurrect on Gary? So here's my thinking. We cast Resurrect, and it would have to be Resurrect unless somebody knows a really high level cleric. It would have to be Resurrection. I think if he got back from heaven, he'd be super pissed at us. Yeah, I have a feeling 1E and OD&D are going to be uh, public domain. Let me see. Another 54 years. Yeah, both of my daughters will be elderly. Their children will be middle-aged. So my great grandkids might get to play um, public domain D&D. I mean, hey, I'd like to live another 54 years as long as it was relatively pain-free. Anyway, says, I've read it statements in books we don't support summoning demons. I ignore those too. So does that mean you're okay with summoning demons? Just sitting down to a game of chainmail with Genghis Khan and Julius Caesar would pop. He's back to publish more games. Would love it. Would love it. Gary would want. You're not wrong, Joshua. You're not wrong. He would come back. Don't ask me any questions about AD&D. Play Legendary Adventure. I'm going to go work on Legendary Adventures. Where's Bill Sylvie? He owes me Key of Sand and the Maledict. I'd be like, oh my God, I got to get to work on those. Yes, I was working on. I was going to work on 2 Legendary Adventures projects for Gary. I was going to. Key of Sand and Maledict for Legendary Adventures. Look, if you're a Legendary Adventures fan, let me just put the brakes on. Let me just stop you before you start typing. I don't know what Key of Sand was. I don't know what Maledict was. I never got any notes, no marching orders, nothing. Nothing. So guys, I was in the middle of running a game of Christ. Yeah. You're okay with writers summoning demons. Let me tell you something, Awig. When writers summon demons, it usually just means we're into the bourbon. Or in my case, beer. I don't much care for brown drink. Wine, beer, mixed drinks sometimes, a little bit of bourbon, whole lot of Coca-Cola. Pacts with demons. But anyhow, again, I just don't know that it benefits us to poke the bear. I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from with that. I'm not coming down on anyone. I want you to be wise. I want you to be wise. I want you to take a step back from this if you're thinking of just like going after WotC from a legal standpoint. What does that get us? A multi-billion-dollar corporation with like a $300 billion market cap or something like that is not gonna back off. They're gonna switch off. I mean, I'm no legal brain, guys. I don't know such stuff. I just want AD&D to be here forever. And I want to be able to play it. And when people sit down and play with my books, my OD&D books or my AD&D books, the same ones that I've shown you on camera, not the PDFs, and they say, "Oh my God, this is wow, I can do anything. I don't have to worry about skills or feats or anything. You just tell me what to do, or I just tell you what I want to do, and then my character can do it." That makes me just elated, just so happy. When people come to it like that, and I want them to be able to. I want them to continue to experience and embrace that. I just I just want to make sure that there's room for all of us. So they're paying me off. Yes, I live in vast luxury. Jack Photon, you have found me out. Oh, but you won't have the last word. You've discovered that here in my fabulous wealth, here at Sylvie Compound in beautiful tropical downtown Longwood, Florida. Ha ha! You've discovered me. I I don't know. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. So I think I've got my point across, guys. 3D printed Twilight 2000 models are awesome. 3D printed Pokemon for my daughter are awesome. My dog is okay. I'm concerned about the missus's health. Um, and you guys are fantastic. And classic AD&D is fantastic. Wizard Tony and Wizard Luigi would like to have a talk with yous. We're gonna have to ask you to make your saving throw versus Iron Boss to your knees. But I want to wrap up and I want to leave on a positive note. First of all, um, have I talked about that fantasy animation series on Netflix that Roll20 is associated with? No, I haven't. I know about it. I will come back and I will give you guys a report on it. But you know what is awesome? If you haven't seen it yet, please do yourself a favor and go. If you haven't watched it yet, Disenchantment. Disenchantment is a hell of a cartoon. It's by Matt Groening. It is whip smart, funny. It is. Mwah. Check out Disenchantment. Highly recommend. Ben Mars break knees. Ben Mars break knees. But no, Imperial Ramblings, I will come back and talk about that. Yes. Elfo, yes. Over the Garden Wall, I watched 2 episodes of. It weirded me out, but I'm going to go back to it. But anyway, to positive things. I'm positive I appreciate everyone's support. Everybody. Look, whether you choose to support me on the Patreon or whether you just come here. Guys, we have had at a peak 20 viewers on this stream tonight. I haven't had that many viewers since we relaunched back in the 3rd of this month. So yeah, 28 days ago, exactly 4 weeks. That's a positive thing. We're at 908 subs, 908 on the YouTube channel. Guys, we are 92 subs on YouTube away from hitting our goal of 1,000 subs. Now, if you're one of these 20 people, it keeps going up and down. Like it's at 15, now it's 19, now it's 18, now it's 20, now it's 17, and it's 17 right now. If you're one of the I'm just going to say 20 people who's watching the stream right now, and you're just driving by, and you've never heard me mention this before, guys, when we hit 1,000 subs, when 1,000 subs this YouTube channel reaches, and I'm not talking about when I get to monetize, I mean 1,000 subs because it's a nice round number. You see that 1 with a K next to it. We're going to celebrate that. How are we going to celebrate that? With a convention. That's right. The Great Underground Online Gaming Convention. Guac. I know it's not really catchy. If I do it again, it'll be DelverCon. But the first one, I feel kind of committed to calling it the Great Underground Online Gaming Convention. So that's what we'll do. That's what we'll have. Thank you, Jack. Thank you. Yeah, we broke 900. Like we took off. It was like sitting in the 880s, 890s a couple of weeks ago, and then just over the course of a weekend, just 18 people signed up and pushed us right up to where we're at now. So if you want to come to a virtual gaming con where AD&D, Original Dungeons and Dragons, Twilight 2000, First Edition Gamma World, Tales from the Loop, because I like that Stranger Things vibe. Hero Quest demo, Space Hulk demo, Dungeon board game, and I'm sure Paul Stormberg will have something fun to run. Paul is going to run something. Kyle is going to run something. Other people have volunteered to run things. If you want to come to a fun, stress-free online gaming convention and you haven't subscribed, click subscribe, click the bell icon for notification, and tell your friends. If your friends are into classic D&D and classic role-playing games and hobby stuff and listening to a fat old man sit on the internet and ramble, oh no, you won't, Ricky. But if you want to do those things, if you want to do that and you want to have just a fun little con, then sign up and get your friends to sign up. If this is what they like, I keep saying, don't at me, don't bot me. You know, I want people who are going to watch a channel who are going to enjoy things. Ricky is cracking me up over there. And by the way, I forgot to switch on. This is my fault this time. I forgot to switch on chat playback. Let me see if I can make chat playback happen. So if you happen to come back by and you're like, what's he talking about? Let me see if I can do that. Oh, it's not gonna power slide into the end of the world with a double Viking. But anyway, so yeah, I apologize, missing chats. I won't do it again. I'll put a sticky note up on my PC to remind me to make sure chat is enabled. That's my fault. 20! We have 20 people watching the chat right now. If every person who's watching the chat who is not a subscriber of the channel subscribes and gets 5 friends, I would be willing to bet you by tomorrow I'll have 950 subs. I would be willing to bet there's that many people watching right now who are not subbed to the YouTube channel. But guys, it's going to be a blast. And that's something else I wanted to mention. And I gotta wrap it up. I got an AD&D game actually starting in 20 minutes, and I got to talk for 3 hours straight DMing that. But some people asked me about merch. I think Vinny was asking me about merch and that sort of thing. Merch for the con specifically, but in larger than merch. I'm not so good with physical deliverables as far as the monetary aspect of it. So I can't really say, yes, we will have merch for the con. Not this time around. Now, a couple of people said, I'll make my own t-shirt. That's awesome. That's great. That's the punk aesthetic right there, as someone said in the Discord the other day. So yeah, we're not gonna have special dice or t-shirts or flyers or anything like that for the guac. I don't know. Maybe I will keep it guac. I kind of like that guac. Who doesn't like good guac? Tableside guac. We make it right there. Group buy t-shirt from T-shirt String or wherever. So anyway, that's all good, positive stuff, and I'm very, very, very happy about that. Tomorrow is AD&D live stream. Now I had nachos for dinner. Chainmail. You know what? Yes, Mar. I would be willing to bet Paul will run some chainmail. I'm not confident enough to get into a chainmail game myself, except as a participant and be told what to roll and when. But I will joust anyone who comes to the Discord and challenges me to a joust. I will joust you. But Dungeon Mister, I had nachos tonight before the show, actually. Where was I? Yes, I was in the process of wrapping up. This is every time I glance over and I see I've got like 20 viewers on, I'm like, I don't want to end the show right now. It's 20 people watching. Is Ty Beard doing anything? I'm not going to speak for the man. He's a lawyer and they frighten the shit out of me. Anything legal, if you come to me with a legal form, I freak the hell out. And if you watch my stream, my most recent stream with Ty Beard, you know, like that causes my heart to seize. Oh man, I get anxiety attacks when stuff like that rolls my way. I don't care what it is. I could win the Florida lottery and they'd be like, well, now we just need you to sign these legal papers, Mr. Sylvie. Mr. Sylvie? Have we got some smelling salts? That's, yeah, that just causes me to vapor lock. But so I'm not going to speak for Ty, but it would be neat if we could get Ty to log into the virtual con and maybe run a fistful of toes. Not toes like on the end of your feet, toes tube launched, optically guided, wire controlled anti-tank missile. What my patches are on my door frame. I'm going to tell you what my patches are on my door frame because I'm having fun and I'm scattered all over the place. But I'm going to finish talking about. So tomorrow, we have to start AD&D early, and everybody in the audience goes, "Oh." So we will start and finish with AD&D tomorrow. We will start at 7:30 Eastern tomorrow for the AD&D live stream. Wednesday Eastern in the US, it's like 1885. It's like the year 2056. I don't know when. I don't know how times work. It's at some point in the future of our Wednesday here in the United States. Kyle will be on the show the day after we talk about the day after we have a D&D live stream. Thursday, you know what we're going to do on Thursday? Because I've been looking at the tank longingly. It's my tanku. It's my tank waifu. We're going to do an unboxing of and character generation for a Twilight 2000 character. That's what we're going to do. We're going to do it live on the show. We're going to go through a Twilight 2000 character build on the show because I love Twilight 2000. We've been doing a whole post-apocalypse thing. Friday, we will play some post-apocalypse because we will have Gamma World live play going on. And we might have like twice the number of players. We might have like 6 or 7 players of Gamma World. There's a video game with tank waifus. Are you talking about World of Tanks? High probability that all of us were born in the 1900s. Congrats, you feel old now. Yes. Okay, so I like it when people ask about stuff around the studio because it gives me stuff to talk about too. But I want to talk about these patches. These are mission passes. These are Apollos 1 through 17 mission patches. And yes, I have the patch worn by Grissom, White, and Chaffee. I do. I have another similar patch for the STS-28 also. They deserve to be remembered. Actual Girls as Tanks. Thanks, I hate it. That's something I know now and I wish I didn't. So I bought this at NASA years ago and I love these mission patches. I don't know if I'm not trying to say I've got like some super rare thing, but I honestly don't know if you can get a whole string of mission patches like that anymore. The ones at the top are dusty. I need to clean them off. But so listen, we're 15 minutes out and I gotta get ready, or well, we're less than 15 minutes out, and I gotta get ready for tonight's 1E AD&D game with the Monday crowd, which is nominally 12 people, although some folks will have to miss tonight due to situations and circumstances. That's the thing, and this is true. I'll leave you with this. Any D&D game, if you're just now, if it's because of me, if it's because of whatever, just now starting to run AD&D, and you're finding that, like, man, my game is 8 people, but only had 4 people show up one week and 3 the next, then 5, and I never seem to get my full table. Don't be discouraged. Don't be discouraged. All right? Think about the times when you do have a full house. So keep that in mind. My Monday's AD&D game is private. It's on Discord. So I have a separate Discord channel. It's not, you won't find it. Don't go looking for it. But that's me and a good crowd of people. So I'm going to leave that there. And really, this is it. This is the end of it tonight, guys. Thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you, everyone. I do want to run the Patreon banner here. Digital Discord, Joshua Garlack, Lord Corion, Ricky Maru 1, 8 Mobius 8, Kevin Reynolds, Joseph Lucas, Doomsword Deathmaster, Mark Simpsons, Damian X247, James F. Keck, William Smith, and the Dungeon Minister. Thank you all so much for supporting me on Patreon. And hey, the first month is coming up. So those of you in certain tiers, you'll be getting something cool soon. Keep your eyes peeled for it. And if you want in on some of that action, oh, you know what to do. But if you're just subbed to the channel and just like watching the videos and you're like, yeah, Bill will get along, whatever, that's fine too. I love you all, guys. I really do. And I really mean that. And I really appreciate everyone's being here and watching the videos. Guys, tonight was a stone groove and I've enjoyed it so much. I enjoyed it so much. God bless you, Dungeon Minister. Thank you, Lord Corion. Thank you, Cal. Let's see. I'm running out of time. I can't believe I'm bothering to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Thank you, Joshua Garlack, Lord Corion, Cal Vanoni, Imperial Ramblings, John David, Jack Photon, Dungeon Minister, A-Wig, Ricky Maru, Cal Vanoni, Vinny Notabartolo. Did I miss anybody? Yes, Mar. And if you were just sitting there quietly and didn't want to say anything, thank you just the same. Guys, I love you all. Have a great evening. Peace out.